What's going on, everyone? So earlier today, we had a stream from FFG talking about the meta updates from Set 5. For those of you that are out of the loop, well, pre-release is pretty much full on going. And we've got the set release not too far after in the coming weeks, which means Legend of the Force is about to be in full swing. Not only that, but we also have the biggest tournament in the history of Star Wars Unlimited coming in late July, the Galactic Championships. I'll be there. Big thank you to my patrons, by the way. We're going to meet up there. But that means that there's going to be a whole new meta. And that means the ban list, the suspension list is a big topic of conversation. And they really focused in on it in this stream. These three devs, they really just wanted to dive into kind of what they're thinking about the meta. What are some cards that are on their list? What are we doing about the suspension list? Are we going to get unbans, etc.? It's a quick, 14-minute little watch. I would definitely recommend it. I'll leave a link to it down below so you guys can check it out if you want to. But the first thing they said was, okay, we're not going to ban any card as of right now. Now, I think this is totally reasonable. I am someone who is really in favor of adapting to the moment. If there is a really problematic, unfun meta, such as DJ or such as Triple Dark Raid or Django, those cards can be banned just for the interest of having a more fun game. We saw this actually, for those of you that played Magic the Gathering, they had their ban announcement I think it was yesterday or 2 days ago, or maybe it was just earlier this week. I know that. And they banned a crazy amount of cards just because not only it was one deck dominating and it was needing a ban, but also a bunch of other cards because either A, it was unfun, or B, they are expected to get better and it's not the playstyle they want to see in their format, or it doesn't fit what their format is trying to do. That is totally reasonable. It's totally reasonable, especially since FFG and overall Star Wars Unlimited is going to be getting an Eternal format soon. This is going to be more acceptable, in my opinion. So if there's a unfun format, banning something relatively quickly thereafter we had feedback, I think is totally reasonable. On that notion, I also don't think we should be pre-banning things before the format even has a chance to really show itself. There are a lot of content creators, there are a lot of people out there, even not content creators, but also just content teams or competitive teams that have been testing out this set significantly. I am just one individual, and I can tell you that I have played every single leader multiple times. And I'm not someone that plays the game in a competitive team. Maybe I play a lot, no doubt about that, but I don't have 4, 5, 6, 7 other people to also sit there, come up with a bunch of lists, test against those lists, test against the best meta decks, and kind of really experience everything the competitive scene might have to offer. So while even I have played a lot, and the competitive teams have played a lot, the vast majority of the player base has not. And letting the vast majority of the player base, as well as a lot of just people who are maybe competitive and just have had a taste of the format, but maybe not actually really diving into the specific team-based testing, I think is a good idea. Just letting the format breathe just for a little bit, okay? We're talking about people calling for bans already, and we'll talk about some of the problem cards. I'm going to do a full video on it soon because I do think there are some things that we should be on our watch list, and well, the stream also said it as such, but letting at least Legends of the Force show itself and figure out what is making some cards strong, what leaders look to be pretty good, and what strategies are prevailing. In that, they also talked about maybe some unbannings. Not that they are really expecting to do so, but we have, Django, we have Triple Dark Raid, we even have Boba that are all considerations for unbanning because they are on the suspension list. I think that is and should be always a conversation. Always. If we're going to talk about things that are problematic, I also think we should be talking about all the cards that maybe could be not problematic or maybe a good addition to the meta. Do I think that's the case right now? I don't really think so. I still think Triple Dark Raid is very, very powerful. Jango Fett and DJ are both cards that absolutely invite playstyles that the vast majority of the community is not a fan of. And same with Boba Fett, as well as having one of the best stat lines that we have ever seen on a leader. Okay, so I don't know if the unsuspensions are really going to ever happen, but they said in their stream that they are really looking into it and making sure that they're doing their due diligence as a team to make sure that they're not just leaving something off the table that could have been there. The last thing that they talked about in the stream, as I mentioned earlier, was problematic cards. The three that they mentioned were Force Throw, General's Blade, and really just, Force Lightning. That's what it was. So a lot of the Force-based cards, those are the three main ones that they mentioned. Force Throw, that is kind of on everyone's radar. And that was the card most frequently talking about a pre-banning. I've seen some people talk about how, oh, it's not that bad. And some other people talk about how it just absolutely needs to go. It is no doubt, and anyone who is denying this probably hasn't played a lot of Set 5, or any, for that matter, or any Star Wars Limited. It is a massively powerful card. It's already a massively powerful card. If you've played the Quinlan decks, or if you've played any deck that has some Force synergies and has Force Throw in it, it could be one of the most game-swinging cards in the entire format. One resource, mess with your opponent's hand, kill a thing, is disgustingly good. It is super good. And in some cases, you can control it to where you can mess with your own hand and just one resource, discard a card, deal 8 to something or whatever. That's still really good. And right now, one of the things that kind of just prevents it from being absolutely out of control is the potential inconsistency. There are not a crazy amount of Force units in the format. And so a lot of decks are able to actually prioritize killing those units so that Force Throw doesn't take over the game. When it comes to Set 5, unless you have an answer to a lot of every single play on every single turn, for the most part, take, for example, Han to green. You could be playing Gunji on turn 1, Obi-Wan on turn 1, you could be Obi-Wan on turn 2, you could be playing, whatever other Force unit you want on turn 3. There's a million of them. You could be playing a Force unit on every single turn. And you can even curve into the late game, which is also more Force units. Back that up with a very cheap interaction event. That is very strong. So, and we'll talk more about the problem cards, but this is the biggest one that I wanted to highlight here. That is the biggest one that people are talking about maybe pre-banning, because the whole set is about Force mechanics. And there are cards from Set 1 that I don't believe they truly had Set 5 in mind for, or a set that's really going to be pushing the Force boundaries. And they certainly didn't have the meta actually developed to the point where they knew what was going to be played by the time Set 5 comes around. They've already explained this back when they talked about Boba Fett and how, their testing, and also with Jango Fett, wasn't actually necessarily specifically reflective of the meta. And again, not really surprising, because there are only so many people on the testing team and there are far more of us, period. So seeing a lot of cards potentially getting out of the ordinary rules of the balance is totally expected. I think the biggest thing is they were not shutting down bans, period. They started the stream. They said, hey, we are not banning anything at this time. Here's what we think of the meta. It's in the great spot. Here's what we think of Legends of the Force. We want to see the cards actually shine a little bit. We want to see where this meta is going to end up. And then here is some cards that we're taking a look at. And here are some cards on the suspension list that may, be looked at again when we see more of the meta shake up. At the end of the stream, they also said, we're looking at these cards and that we're not just completely going to let them sit if they become real problems. And that, to me, is exactly where I want them to be. I don't want them pre-banning things, but I don't want them to be just like, oh yeah, we're not banning at this time. We're going to be waiting for a specific date in 3 months or when the next set releases before we even consider banning something again. I think the fluidity of these types of things is really important to adapt to a community, especially when a game isn't like extremely established. The game so far has been going pretty good. We just passed the 1 year mark a little bit ago. And so we still actually have a long way to go. But in terms of how FFG has responded, this is exactly how I kind of want them to. I want them to unban things maybe if the format looks like it can handle it. I want them to look at cards and let the sets actually develop to where we could see people who are really developing the meta and playing at a competitive level, and also the casual players, what their perspective is on a lot of these cards when they're attending local events. That's what I want to see. I want to see that feedback. I want to see the stats. I want to see whatever everything actually transpires and then make a decision. And I want to make it swiftly, to be honest, because letting it sit just makes everyone kind of enjoy the format less. And guess what? With set 4, the decisions made at that point, look what it developed into. Probably one of the most fun experiences of Star Wars Unlimited since set 1. And the game's interest has shown and reflected that decision. The swift action from FFG of banning Django and DJ after only a couple of weeks in the format, based on how dominant they were, well, it just made everyone enjoy their time that much more. And that's what we want to do. We want to have some fun. And we want to make sure that a lot of other decks have their place to breathe in the meta. And it's not just one strategy dominating it all. With that said, let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Let me know if there are any cards that you really think are a big problem. And I'll be making a video like that shortly. See you then.